Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Buenas tardes, señoras y señoritas. Soy Jorge Grisham, George Grisham, and I'm speaking with you from Denia, Alicante, which is in Spain's Costa Blanca between Valencia and Alicante. All right, what I'm going to tell you about is a little bit about my book. Let me start here. The book is all about insurance. No, I work in insurance. This is part of our company. This is my wife, Katya in Russian, who works in insurance who's been working in insurance for 22 years. I've been in insurance for 35 years. We have a company in London, in Denia, in Ukraine, in Russia, and so forth. So we work worldwide. We insure big things like big ships, big aircraft, refineries, and so forth. But what I also do, I write books. So I started about 25 years ago writing books on marine insurance, reinsurance, legal insurance, legal aspects of insurance. And then the more I was traveling, and also when I have moved to the nice, beautiful city or town rather of Denia, where we live with one of my daughters. Yeah, 4 daughters. You can see them. 2 live in London, 1 lives in Dublin, and the smallest one lives with us here, with me, Katya, and our mother-in-law. And actually you can see the same mountain, the same Mungo mountain up there. This is the mountain which actually gave birth to Denia, to its fantastic climate and its history. So what I'm going to tell you about is Denia's history. And the book is to be called Delightful Denia. Why it is to be called? First of all, Denia. We have a little song from Palina's school, which says, Denia, hermoso lugar donde puedas vivir junto al mar. It's a beautiful place where you can live by the sea. The temperature and the landscapes are fantastic. So, having lived here since 2012, having been coming here with Katya since 2003, I decided to write a book. All right, fine. History of Denia turned out to be much longer than one book. These are 2 books, both in Russian, 500 pages, called Denia Divina, Valencia Valiosa, España Esplendida. As you can see from the triple title, it covers history, geography, culture, architecture of Spain at their highest level, Valencia, which is an ancient kingdom, Comunidad Valenciana, a huge and interesting region around, and our little Denia. So 3 levels of coverage and 500 years in 2 books. And then I realized that, of course, no one is going to read those 500 pages. It's too much. And together with a friend of mine, Ivan Uhov, who is a fantastic photographer, who's been living here for at least 22 years, and he loves Denia, his wife Natalia as well, we decided to create a shorter book, using his wonderful sense of climate and of landscapes and everything. So let me introduce you the book, which is still now being published in Valencia, which will be called Delightful Denia. It has been written though, which is good news. And this is Denia, the very end of it, a place called Las Rotas, or Les Rotas in Valenciano. And you can see there San Antonio Cape, which we're now going to talk about. So Denia, am I the first to write or to speak about Denia's history? No, I'm not. Of course, there were quite a few historians in Denia. The first one was Senor Palau in 17th century. Then we had fantastic Roque Chabas, who was born in Denia in 1844 and who left us a very good book called History of the Town of Denia. And in it, he split Denia's history into 4 parts. If you like, he said there are 4 Denias altogether. Ancient Denia from ancient times, Arab or Muslim Denia from 1713, feudal Denia from 1244, and modern Denia from 1708. I think there is also, we now live in the present time Denia. It's hard to say when this period has started, 1975 or when. So what I did, first I split the history of Denia into my own parts, as I saw it, into 12 or 13 parts. And then this small book actually splits into 12 chapters. So I'm going to speak about Denia's history chapter by chapter. It will take a while, but we've got nothing to do whilst we're in quarantine, so let's begin. Also, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to delightful Denia. Where is it? Why is it so important? Have a look, please, at the map of Spain, and you can see that the Mediterranean coast of Spain has this little nose, as my wife Katya says. This little nose are two capes, Cape Antonio and Cape Now, which means the the ship cape. And it is nearest to Balearic Islands, and then further on to Italy. So in ancient times, the ancient mariners, in order to cross over this part of Mediterranean, it took them about 3 days usually. For instance, they would leave from Pisa or from Rome. You know that Rome didn't have a port, but anyway, in one day they would reach Corsica or Sardinia. In another day they would reach Mallorca, Menorca, or Ibiza, and then the third day, and they're near Denia. And what was interesting, that Denia had a very good port at this time, whilst neither Valencia, excuse me, this is not coronavirus, but this is cough which will be coming and going. So Denia had the best port around. So it was predetermined to become an important place. When did it become an important place? This is the question. Because around 1,000 years before Christ, before Common Era, as we are saying somewhere, there was a rich country called Tartessos, somewhere where we have modern Sevilla, Granada, Cordoba now. And yes, Tartessos was very rich in tin, in lead, in gold. It was bringing different parts even from the British Isles, and then it was trading with the whole Mediterranean. So gradually, first the first master mariners, who were Phoenicians, of course, then their grandchildren, who were Carthaginians, and later, much later, the other seafaring nations, the Greeks, came over to trade with Tartessos. You can see on this map blue little towns, including Hemeroscopeion, I'm sorry, who were Greek, and gray little towns who were Phoenician or Carthaginian. So trading with Tartessos was important in 1,000 years before Christ. And that was then when Carthaginians or Phoenicians started Europe's oldest town, Cadiz or Gadir. Okay? And now we're moving to a different part of the Mediterranean. You've all heard about Artemis of Ephesus, all right? Well, that's how she looked like, and that's how her temple looked like, which was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And but for Herostratus, probably it would be here still. Where was this Ephesus? Ephesus was here, in Minor Asia, what is now Turkey. And not far from it was a place called Phocaea, with an O, please. Phocaea was a Greek town, because you know the Greeks were spread all over the Mediterranean. But unfortunately, Phocaeans' lands themselves were quite poor. They couldn't develop their beloved agriculture there, so they started moving around. First, Phocaean Greeks came and founded France's first town, the most ancient town of France, which is now called Marseille, Marsalia at that time. And so the Greeks were now called not Phocaean Greeks, but Massaliotes Greeks, Massalian Greeks. And then they started moving down this coast. Where to? This is the map of all Greeks. But see, our Phocaean Greeks came from here, first to Massalia, future Marseille, then to Emporio, which is now Empuria Brava in Catalonia, and then to this place here, and founded a place, excuse me, called Hemeroscopeion. Did it exist or not? Nobody knows for sure, because it was 2.6 thousand years ago. But Strauber, who is called the father of geography, he's written 17 books and lived only 2,000 years ago. He described a place which stood next to a high mountain, which had a good harbor, which had a temple of Artemis, possessed iron deposits not far away, and had a lookout tower, or what was called the daily watch. If you look at the Greek language in Wikipedia, you can see that they're not even doubting that Hemeroscopeion or Hemeroscopeion or Artemison existed. So what was it? If you look at this map, for instance, which says Greeks and Carthaginians, again, Hemeroscopeion would be here. And Hemeroscopeion is actually translated as the watchtower. Now we have a watchtower now, a few of them, but they're much younger, of course. This one at the end of Denia, the famous Las Rotas, which already you've seen, was built in 1550s during Charles I as an emperor. This one also was built about 600 years, 500 years ago. It's called Almadrava Tower. But hang on, what is Almadrava? Almadrava is tuna fishing. By the way, if you're hearing a dog moaning, this is our dog called Pulga, and she sort of tries to sing in tune with my speech. Thank you very much. So Almadrava was tuna fishing. Now let's go back to Strauber. When he's describing this little settlement of Greeks called Hemeroscopeion, or the daily watchtower, he's saying that there was a high mountain, but we have Mongo, you've seen it, very high mountain. It had a good harbor, but Denia is the only place to have a good harbor. All right, our neighbor Shavia or Habia or Chabia also has a harbor, but at that time it was not that developed. At that time means 2.6 thousand years ago. There were some iron deposits, and also probably there was a lookout tower for what? To watch for Carthaginians, because Carthaginian lands actually started beyond San Antonio Cape, and also to look out for tuna, because tuna was always traveling here. What tuna was doing was entering Mediterranean via Gibraltar, going along the coasts, and then around Denia, somewhere where Denia is now, or where Hemeroscopeion was 2.6 thousand years ago, it turned to those Balearic Islands, then came back to the coast where Catalonia is now. So tuna fishing was popular in Mediterranean already 5,000 years ago, because tuna is such a good meat. And they actually call it tuna hunting, this Almadrava. And they're doing it in Denia or outside Denia, between Denia and Ibiza still. So of course, building here this watchtower would have been quite understandable. That's why we think that Hemeroscopeion, the Greek Hemeroscopeion, of which no traces have been found, still was here. Most of our historians, including our Rocky Chabas, think the same, that Hemeroscopeion, the Artemison, a town with a good port, with a watchtower, and with a temple of Artemis, was here 2.6 thousand years ago, and that the ancient Artemison or Hemeroscopeion was and is today's Denia, one of the very, very few ancient Greek settlements in Iberia, as it was called. Now, what about other inhabitants of this land? Yes, of course, there were Iberians. They lived here because there were only a few Greeks if ever Hemeroscopeion existed, but we think it existed, all right? Iberians were split into roughly Iberians and Celtic Iberians. Iberians lived here, where we can see orange color. And Iberians were split into different tribes. Contestani tribe lived where Denia is now, Javier, Alicante is now, and Edetani tribe lived where Valencia and Giria and Sagunta is now. We, of course, know the Dame of Elche, the famous sculpture, stunningly beautiful, which was found around Elche, not far from Denia, 200 kilometers from Denia, and that was made by Contestani. But the problem was that there were always roads here, see? But these roads or paths never passed via Denia. Even Romans built a road which was a direct road from Alicante to Valencia, bypassing Denia. So originally, ancient people, 10,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, didn't come here because there were no paths. They didn't use boats too much. They mostly walked on land. And here there was a deviation. But very, very gradually, the Contestani, or their ancestors, started settling in our Mongo mountain, on the southern part of it, on the southern side of it, which is nearer to ancient or to today's Shavia. So on the other side of it, not on the Danian side, because the Danian side is facing north. The other side is facing south. And we have Cova Ampla, which is also called the Eye of Mongo, on the other side. So one of the earliest inhabited caves. Then there is another cave called Cachupa. And later, quite recently, they found Alt de Benimaquia, which actually had one of the first wineries in Iberia, which was started by Contestani about 2,500 years ago. And again, this was on the other side of Mongo. And here we finish chapter 1 of the book, Delightful Denia. Thank you very much for listening. And we will be back with 11 more chapters. But we have introduced you to the ancient town of Denia, to the period 2.6 thousand years ago, when Denia was a Greek settlement called Hemeroscopeion. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm trying to switch off the thing, which I'm not quite sure how it's done. I'm only quite new here. Anyway, goodbye. See you soon.